I think that as a business owner, there's always something to learn, and devoting a bunch of time to something to learning something that you're never going to do anything with doesn't make any sense. So, of course, if you're going to associate yourself with something and you're not going to ever do anything with it, or you're starting to find out that the lessons that you're learning through that aren't really applicable, then yeah, find a different room. But um,
Yeah.
I read the same books like almost every year. There's three of them I read over and over, and that to me is like the repetition. But then there's also stuff like this. This just came today.
Yeah, I got mine too. I didn't get
And
playbooks. I got his money model book.
all of
Nice.
them. Yeah, I mean, um, I already kind of have a pretty good idea of a lot of this. Yeah, and I got plenty of those. You get like 200 when you do it this way. But
Yeah.
um, I see everyone on social media like, dude, you got scammed, bro. You got it. Okay, cool. So did you, and you bought anything and didn't do anything with it. This to me, there's already stuff here that I've taken from and started in February for us. With the lead nurture process, with the closing models. What is your biggest takeaway on money models right now? Have you put yourself into it yet?
I haven't. I'm working through. I have two other books open right now. Well, I went through an entree leadership book with my
Yeah, Dave
PM.
Ramsey.
Yeah, with my PM and ops manager. Just finished that up, and now I'm starting about a quarter of the way through Fierce Conversations,
Yeah.
which has been good so far. And then Money Models, I kind of just hop into it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not reading it like front to back right now. I'm just like, I wonder what this says about this. And I'll hop in there and look at it. And I'm probably going to give it to the marketing guys as well to help them out and give them some fresh perspective on those things.
Well,
But
don't be a statistic. And buy the book like everybody says, and then it just goes on the shelf and
yeah,
nobody
yeah,
does anything with it. I just was vanity. I had to have it. Don't be one of those. But and he didn't advertise this, didn't tell anybody this, and he did it with this one.
yeah.
As soon as Money Models got launched, you can go on Spotify and listen to the whole damn thing. So,
Really? That's awesome.
and he breaks it down. He commentates it. So it's like you're getting it all read to you if you really want it that way. So yeah, you can still catch it. And that's I've read probably 4 whole pages of the book, and I've listened to the Money Models Spotify 5 sections so far, like 4 different times,
Yeah.
over and over. And I'll say like none of it's new, none of it's like recreated. It's repeating stuff that he heard elsewhere. Look, I just got another email. I've got another book that shipped. But it's like, the truth is, I think if you really want to learn and you divulge yourself into it, make sure you're implementing whatever it is you're taking away from it, because it's useless otherwise.
Yeah, I feel he's a very good compiler of proven information that is effective. And I don't know. I was listening to what's their faces, different podcasts. Oh, yeah, Sam Parr and Sean Purry, millionaire or whatever. Anyways, they were talking. They always interview like ultra high net worth people and all this stuff. And the common theme is all of these guys that are high net worth and industry leaders, they're consistently getting education and getting different perspectives. And oddly enough, more not really in like nuts and bolts books like Money Models or $100 million Leads, but through like biographies and just reading about people's lives and the decisions they made and the outcomes of those decisions. And they're another great podcast is Founders podcast, where he basically dives in and gives the full biography, and he reads an incredible amount of books. But like that's been really interesting to dive into, the Rockefellers' lives and how they got their rise. And Sam Walton, that really turned me on to read Sam Walton's biography in his book, and that was great. And then like Phil Knight with Shoe Dog. Like, I heard about that on a podcast, a biography about Phil Knight and the story of Nike. Then I read the Shoe Dog book, and I was like, man, really relate to it very much as far as like shoes and that type of business, but the takeaways of just drive and unwrestled, just relentlessness to be successful, like those are all awesome traits to read about. So I agree. Everyone should be reading more.
Yeah.
They're the best book in the world. You can open your Bible every morning too. There's a lot of good stories and lessons in there too.
A lot of them.
Yep.
So many of them. I don't even think you're a Christian if you don't come to church with it in your hand. I'm just kidding.
A Bible in your hand?
No, it's like it's a misconception in the South. I think if you don't carry your Bible to church service on Sunday, that God can't bless you then. So bring it. It's like the way God actually blesses you. It comes through that into your arm.
Oh, sounds pretty transactional to me. Yeah. I got an iPhone, homie. I don't need a phone.
I get mine through the subwoofer from worship. The worship music. The subwoofer is what speaks to me.
The thump of the bass.
The thump of the bass
speaks to me. Well, what's going on in your business, dude? How you guys been?
Good, man.
It's been a week or two. Fill up the audience.
We were out last week. We were down in Atlanta. Went to Chuck Toki's Top Rep Sales Training course as a refresher for me, and then as a refresher for one of my sales guys. I brought also our new lead handler, and crazy as it is, I hired a guy from he's from Sacramento. He's been here for about 3 or 4 years. He was a general contractor licensed in a couple different states out there doing baths and kitchens, and was in Remodeler Mag, did pretty well. And so he's new to us. We can do this. Yeah, we can do this off script. He's on fire. I'll be honest with you. If you really want to know, you can dig deep into this, because there was about 200 sales reps that compete for top rep at Top Rep Sales Training course, and he took 3rd place. So
nice.
Killed it. Cool system, cool process. I really like the platform and how they build it out, and when the guys leave, they've got stuff they can immediately implement that'll change the process. So obviously I've trained, taught, learned, implemented the one call close, but I don't think there's ever a chance that you're going to know it all. 2, 3, the momentum, and get it and run it, and so
nice.
Yeah,
you ever
cool.
feel like when you have that momentum and people are doing their job effectively, and you could see the system wheels turning and how everything's working, and you ever feel like, well, what's my role? Like everyone's doing their job so well that there's not a lot of gaps here for me to fill, except for like for me, I just have like default to like, okay, grow, like growth, network, develop this, go do that, start making acquisitions. Well, like for you, like, do you ever have that? Like you're like, man, what? Everyone's taking care of everything. Like, what do I do next?
I don't have that, and I think it's based on what I expect and want from this. So there are plenty of businesses that would get to this point and go, gosh, this is a great income. Why do we need to grow anymore? I don't really want to be any more complicated than this. I'm making great money. The business is profitable. Let's just keep this going. This is great. That is not the way I think. And I'll tell you, this is fun, but it's not extremely invigorating for me. Fun is kind of the short way to say it. But this extremely invigorating, like the exciting phase, is when there's 15 of these. When I'm hearing about the one location that's closing, 20 jobs a day or more, and they're not just a number in the process. Like, these are extremely detailed client relations that, nobody could help with, and we came through, educated, gave them a process, executed clearly on a scope, gave them no reason to want to not give us reviews and spread the good word about what we're all about. So that's when, to me, it's fun. So, I mean, like right now, I'm paving a road that's probably not going to get any traction or anything on it for almost 6 to 9 months. And even then, I already still see where we're headed to next year.
Mm-hmm. So what's the mission? Is it 20 locations, 200 million top line? Like, what's it look like? What's the mission?
Right now, it's pretty close to about 275 different zip codes. It's about 50 new Google reviews per location that we're putting in. Right now, this is substantial for like 4 locations. So, I mean, if you start looking at all those trackables and the details, I mean, it's easily an EBITDA $5 million business. But the end of the day, I don't care so much about how many locations or how many actual like dollars profited as much as I do like the reputation that's built, the significance of our name and the brand in the marketplace, where we substantiate ourselves different from the rest of the companies out there that do this. Because at the end of the day, if we can convert in just this market alone, we've practically reconfigured the term deck builder, the name contractor, in a positive way, where there's no longer a chance someone could just like complain about that being a negative connotation. And that's the mission in a sense. But I mean, overall, I still want to glorify God and make sure it's all aligned properly there. Because if that doesn't have any significance, it's really all not worth it at all.
Yeah.
And that part's actually already here. It did establish itself 2 years ago. It's just now starting to show up in a bigger way where I was like unaware of how it would show up. It's arrived at my front doorstep with the right people.
Yeah.
You know?
I like it. Yeah. It's tough to have the vision to go that far. For me, very, very similar. Like, reputation and impact are huge, and those will carry you a lot farther than the top line will. And that's honestly what matters. Like, if you can making a profit's great and necessary. Completely. Everyone needs to make a profit, but if you're only solely looking to make a profit, you're not going to make it for long, because you're gonna do things that don't align with really what the impact of a business leaves, which is like legacy. Like, so for me, I think about my kids and leaving something that they'll be proud to work in if they choose to. Leaving something that gives other kids opportunities and gives our employees kids opportunities and gives our employees financial opportunities they would never have in the trades. And to do that, I've deduced to have the headquarters I want that would provide those things and the revenue that would get filtered all the way down to the redistribution of our profits to our people and their families. I need to be at 400 million. And that's just what the numbers come out to. And that's about 985 people in our organization across 10 different divisions of subtrades. And that's the finish line. And then when I reverse, just like anyone should, you have your goals, you have your mission, it's on paper, right? And at that point, it's just a number and a head count based off of an average revenue per head figure. And I start like reverse engineering from 400 million. And it's very tough to do that with such a big number of like where all that money comes from, what division is equitable to this amount of revenue. And it got like, I spent hours on it and I just had drafting paper and I was just fucking going, right? on the whole thing. And then I took pictures of it all and I put it into an AI and I was like, how's my analysis? Like if I have HVAC, exteriors, windows, doors, siding, stucco, roofing gutters, plumbing, electrical, framing, concrete, paint, countertops, cabinets, and all of this is in this. It's about 165,000 square foot facility. That's 3 stories big. And, broke it down and was like, yeah, this is probably going to be like, if you're a super genius and very aggressive, 10 to 15 years. He's like, for most people, it's going to be a generational thing. Like, you're not going to get there in your lifetime to do that, which then reaffirmed legacy for me. Like if I don't get there in my lifetime, it'd be so cool to build something and set my kids up to get there, and keep on that legacy.
What do you think that is, though, like about companies? Like, you always hear about companies that have been generationally passed through, and they were, thriving solid organizations, profitable, but they just didn't just like for many years they were just present. They were somewhat of a household name, but they didn't just become like the national brand. And then all of a sudden, this one family member comes along and takes it and blows it up. What do you think if you had to identify like the one characteristic that that person had that the rest of the family didn't, would narrow in on?
The first attribute that came to my head was arrogance.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the right one. But it does, like for me, one of the personal things on my character, and I think most business owners in a way have this same chip on their shoulder, but pride and arrogance is a very efficient power source. And I'm not saying it's right by any means, but it does take a certain type of brass to get things going, right?
That's right.
And I think maturing in leadership and maturing with your influence and your character, you can start delineating the positives parts of those characteristics and try to leave out the bad of those characteristics. But I do think that for someone to take over an empire, they have to have a healthy amount of arrogance in them to continue. I also don't think, because at that point too, you also have to think about the resources available to them. The mentality that you and I had, bootstrapping a company to 10, 20 million, and then maybe scaling it to 50 to 100 before the end of our lifetime, or hopefully farther. The same traits that I have aren't necessarily what they need. They don't need, they will need grit and fortitude and some mental resilience, but they're not going to have to bootstrap it, right? There's going to be retained earnings. There's going to be 500 to 1,000 people and resources around them. So I do think risk-taking is going to be important, but not as critical and not as volatile as when you're first starting. The ripple goes out farther, where like right now, I'm still kind of in a speedboat, right? Like I can turn on a dime and make a pivot and get out of a situation, or I can sell a job and, that's cash flow for 6 months. But at that scale, it is more, it has to be multi-market, and it's way more multi-dimensional, people-wise, cash-wise, general resources, supply chain, which all boils down to people. So I'm not sure. But I do think that they got to have some balls on them, man. To step into a legacy empire and grow it to like the next stage, it takes a special individual. And in some ways, I think ignorance is bliss in those situations. Because it's easy to find someone to run your company at that level, right? Like that's a dime a dozen. You can throw a rock and hit a competent CEO or a president to run your $100 million company and not lose it. But to grow it from 100 to 1 billion or 100 to 500 million, that takes balls, and that takes a ambitious, arrogant. And I think arrogant. I want
to tweak that.
Not
I got you on a mutation here for a second. If you let me run here on that subtle flex.
Tell me.
Because I'm with you. Like arrogance is sort of like the way we see it, but it is a flex in a sense. When people see a leader make hard calls without hesitation, that reads like power. It's not arrogant, it's not ego, but it commands presence of something. And so that's like a level above arrogance. I think that's confidence anchored in decisive action. It's not just words. So if arrogance is, I believe I'm right, the next level of arrogance is I'm willing to decide, act, and adjust faster than anyone else for my team, for my people. And I think now you've completely like the ladder that's leaning up against where you're headed, or whatever analogy you want to. It's not the same ladder. You know what I mean? You're building it with a different swagger about your motions and the approach. So it can't be just arrogance, because in truth, like arrogance alone is like, I think you pack that with an uneducated approach, and I don't think business owners are uneducated. I think they make concise decisions based off of prior fear, maybe, that they've divulged and dissolved it.
I think it does come back to reading too. in a
Yeah.
weird way, because it comes from, like, the confidence comes from stupid taxes already paid,
Yeah.
right? Dues paid have made this decision very easy to move forward on,
Yeah.
right? Because I know the cost of not making this decision.
Right.
And I feel it stems back to reading, because you can read about all the great rise and falls of empires and leaders and conquerors and be like, oh, like, pride really does come before the fall. Or, oh, he was over leveraged and that's a silly thing to do. Like, reading it objectively is like, what the hell were you thinking? But in the time, he was just paying his stupid tax, right? He didn't know what he didn't know yet. And for some people, that's a death sentence, right? Like a stupid tax at $100 million. That's a heavy tax.
Yeah.
Stupid tax at $1 million might be 10 grand. You know, you eat it, you take the hit, you move forward. So yeah, I like the way you put that though, with like it's above arrogance, because I do. It's like with me, like my leadership style, I try to be as servant leadership as possible. Actually, I put this. This is actually a good one for you. If you have like an Otter or a Firefly's AI. There's like a general chat for the Otter AI. It has all of my conversations, like private conversations, very hard conversations when I'm terminating someone, or when I'm like trying to coach someone up and really try to help them. All the conversations are in there. And I asked it the other day, like, describe the best aspects of my leadership and the worst aspects of my leadership based off of all the conversations you ever heard me in. And what did it say? Let me pull it up, because I thought it was interesting, because it started pulling quotes out, and I was like, "Oh, I said that."
So the question was, describe what?
So I said, "Here, I'll share my screen. You guys can look at it." Where's my okay? So I said, based on all the conversations you've heard me in, how would you describe my leadership, and what type of leader am I? What can I work on? And then it goes down all of it, like, you're collaborative and transparent. You encourage open communication. You invite feedback. You're clear about expectations and process. And then it like quotes you, like, I want to know clearly where you stand. Like, in my trust hierarchy, I trust your competence. I trust your judgment. I trust that you're going to handle this situation in a manner likely how I would. I just need more of that, like, between the eyes, right? Affirming, kind of a shit sandwich in a way. And then like going down, it's like, because one with the entree leadership, they always talk about the servant leadership. And then you look at the three types of leaders, and there's like the charismatic, like transformational, which is kind of a buzzword on LinkedIn nowadays of like, that's the type of leader you want to be. Which I was cool to hear this. Like, I have qualities of a transformational and servant leader on developing and fostering trust and driving improvement through like feedback, empowerment. But then what I didn't like, and you might be able to clear me out here, the being a participative leader, like a democratic, involving all my teams in decisions and valuing their input, which I do think, like, at face value is a very good thing. But it also, they haven't paid the stupid tax. Right? Like, they haven't had to stroke the check for 25 grand because someone fucked up and you're accountable for it. And so their decisions as being a democratic leader, I don't feel in business is appropriate. But then like it goes down, and it's like you tend to put the Superman cape on and step in, which like I need to delegate and have team ownership. But I've recognized it. I'm letting others take responsibility. I am inherently chaotic. But I'm building more structure into my schedule and routine, which has been honestly, like, I'll show you my calendar. I rebuilt my whole calendar, like daily, like how I do things. And it's been like awesome, right? Like my days are full, right? Like today's a very full day, but like wake up 4:30, have my time with God, have quiet time with my wife, work out, run or lift, prep for work, get the kids to school. And then I'm at work usually 8 to 4:30. And then on Thursdays, hopefully for my guys that are listening here, they keep joking that I'm just golfing all day. I am golfing on Thursdays, damn it. And that happens at 11 o'clock. But I'm still in office, 8 to 11. And then I hit my tea time at 12 o'clock and go home at 4. But so, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I think for anyone because pretty much everyone is using those voice recorders, software, AI software now. And I did the same thing with ChatGPT, and I'm really looking for like the weak parts. Like, where can I be shored up? Where can I constantly improve? Because being a leader is very isolating. No one gives you honest feedback. I think you know that. Like, no one's telling you. It's very rare. I won't say no one. I don't want to be absolutist here, but very rare will an employee feel the agency to hit you between the eyes as their boss and as the business owner and tell you, hey, you're wrong here, and here's why. Or, hey, you're falling short in this aspect of leadership. Here's why. It's tough to find that. So,
Well, and I don't think that there's ever going to be a point in time when you identify that you're just it's good, it's perfect. We're there. There's never a chance for me to grow better, be better, especially with people. You know, people scaling in business. You'll master the vision for your business. You'll master all of the processes and systems, but you will never master people. And that's a hard one to swallow because everybody's going to want something today from being a participant in the organization that tomorrow they may or may not want the same again. They may want more or they may want less. And that's up to a good leader to identify those people. And then when the standards are high, I think in some organizations, like, you know, when I worked in corporate America, the standards were so high, but I was miles away from getting the opportunity to put my hand on the steering wheel of the ship that we were riding in.
yeah.
And in small organizations, you get a chance to actually meet the captain. You know, you run with the captain on a daily basis. You may get a chance to man the helm for a few hours if it's needed. So,
Well, it's the man in the arena mentality, right?
yeah.
Like, everyone gets to be in the arena.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what my energy is literally like. I'm always excited about the size of a small organization because there's such a bigger impact that each individual person plays. And that's why it's so important to have good 18 players that are wanting to feel the same way. But from a scalability perspective, like as a leader, learning to become better at a leadership role, it takes identifying those people. It takes setting and blocking time to be able to prepare them for the storm because it's coming.
Always.
It takes really like some psychology to understand when things aren't good, like how you're going to dance through the difficult conversation with some of them, because a lot of them don't need it packaged in such a pretty little, you know, bow, and some of them want it direct, and then some of them do need you to kind of go through it in a completely different perspective. So you're almost like turning into this Broadway presenter that has to show the same play 10 different ways, you know? And
It's being
so,
a chameleon.
yeah, you're being a
Yeah.
chameleon, and you're learning to act and communicate in 10 different ways to your people so they all get the same message. They all understand the importance of that vision. And it's the rhythm and the sequence of the timing is perfect for everybody to all go, aha, that's the problem. That's where we fix it. Let's move. And again, so sharpening on opportunities with leadership and people will never end. You'll always be doing that. If you want something of substance. Now, I say this, I know people who have gone from 0 to hero, you know, no revenue to 15 mil, and it came so fast, they couldn't figure out how it happened, and now they're still going, well, I still paid that much on advertising. Why am I not still getting those leads? Well, guess what? Nothing that comes that fast lasts for very long. It can go out the door just as fast, too. So showing that the people are the process, and the process is important, but the people make the process, and learning to fit all of them in the right roles and inspire in different ways changes the whole game. That's the legacy layer, right?
Yeah. And ironically, I think leadership is a direct correlation, or effective leadership is to how well people listen. And listening not just to the conversations you're in, but just observing other conversations. Like, we have an open office, and often I'm usually cracking jokes and drinking coffee and eating hard-boiled eggs lately, but most of the time I'm listening, right? I'm working and I'm hearing the conversation over on our tile side and like what they're talking about, what they're working through. I'm hearing the conversation with our drafter and our project manager about an RFI, and just understanding how people are taking in the information Therefore, like I don't have to put my cape on and go run over to my design side of the building and like try to fix their problem, right? I don't have to run over to the tile side and fix their problem, but I can identify their problems. I can understand why it's a problem, and then I can do everything in my power behind the scenes to just erase that problem from ever happening again, which I think is like huge. It's knowing your people, because once again, it comes down to like that's why I started when I was doing my vision cast with, okay, how much EBITDA will we need? How much of that will go into retained earnings? How much is going to go back to our people? And like of that lump sum, well then, how many people do I need to produce this revenue, right? Because like it's not how much systems do I need to have or what processes do I need. Like those are going to evolve over time, and those are always going to break and be rebuilt, and a new tech is going to come along and accelerate that process. They're going to have to start over again and adopt a new piece of tech. But how many people? Because that's the one thing that hasn't changed, is it takes people to have a profit, to implement a process, to serve our clients. All comes down to the people and how you treat them, which that's also one of my biggest fears in operating a business. And this is something that's hit really close to home with me, is people are essentially carrying your name and your reputation into other people's homes. And you're trusting that person to represent your company, your voice. You're essentially, the legacy that you're building is trusted to each single person that interfaces with the end user. And that is somewhat terrifying when you start looking at, I got 50 reps here, I got 25 project managers. That needs to be 75 very quality people that you can trust. Just like I said in that little transcript, like I trust that you would make likely the same decision I would make in your situation. It needs to be that for everyone, right? I believe you have a heart that's like mine, right? Like you care about people the way I care about people. We speak the same language here. Our values are aligned. Because what I've found is, after interviewing and hiring and firing 50 to 100 people now, people can say whatever the hell they want to get in the door. And you don't know till you know. Like we just hired a new drafter. I haven't put him client facing. It's almost been 3 months now. We're just training, and he's working on personal projects, like just drafting. How do you interact with me when I have a question? Do you get frustrated when I change something? Like, how do you respond to this? How do you respond to that? Like, are you the right DNA as a person? I know you have the skill, right? I don't really care about your skill. The skills are the commodity. The person is what makes it valuable, the character behind it.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. It's scary.
No, well, I mean, you can't make them want to do it.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard you can't train character either. It's something that evolves.
I think you can inspire character as a good leader that has a mission and a vision that's all inclusive. I think you can really inspire people to dig deeper in their why personally. They may have come to work for you for certain reasons at first, and they felt like the culture fit was good and the pay was reasonable and the benefits were there, and then they start realizing, holy cow, this freaking Ryan guy's inspired me to want to get back in shape, and now I'm joining a Bible study once a week, and I didn't even know I was good at golf, but I'm amazing at golf. Like that happens.
Yeah, that does.
Prepare it, right?
That does. I always try to figure out like what's in it for them,
Sure.
And like in our quarterly meetings, I'm always harping like, I actually said this like as a quote in my last quarterly meeting for Q2. Like, I'm sure you guys see me out here with the brand new 3500, diesel, and I'm just some like rich asshole that pushes paper all day, right? It just kind of like broke the room down into that, like, because and I told him like that's how I felt about all the bosses I had before starting my own company, and in some ways like the optics of that are very clear. But here's my plan to give back to you. Like, here's what's in it for you. Because I told them, I'm like, there will be a day I'm pulling up to the office in a Bugatti, and you guys better be stoked because your bank account's going to be full too. Because everyone's going to win. Like, everyone's going to fucking win. I can give you my word on that. And for some people, it really resonated. For others, I felt just like reading the room, because as you're speaking, there was 45 or so, 50 people, and you kind of can like pick out the faces that are like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And you know what? Those people aren't going to be here.
They don't know it yet, though, do they?
Well, I think belief comes through track record. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
they need to consistently see the fruit, right? Which is tough to do because honestly, like right now, like financially, their companies like KHB has been killing it this year. Hometown, we've been having major issues on accounts receivable. And we've injected like $600,000 in the last 2 months or last 18 months into our tile company where we have all of that in receivables. But we're just like, I'm in a lawsuit in Pennsylvania trying to get paid. I'm fighting a contractor in, I think it's like Las Vegas or whatever to get paid. Chunks, like 60 to 150K at a time. It's just never ending battle in the commercial world to get freaking paid. But if we were up to date on our AP and our cash service cycle was 30 days or less, we'd be doing great on the tile side. And that's what's also tough too, like running multiple business units. It's like, well, do I reward everyone for KHB's profitability, or do I just reward KHB and then we have an ugly stepsister situation? You know, it's tough to delineate. And then also the other factors of growth is pretty much every dollar of profit that would be going into retained earnings is going into growth. As long as we're meeting our profitability and our gross profit, margins. And like I got an LOI out on a cabinet company, a countertop fabrication company, a painting company, and now an HVAC deal just fell on my desk yesterday for an HVAC company. And I'm like, okay, I got four companies here, all doing 1 to 5 million that I could bolt on with seller financing and an earnout over time, and immediately add, 1 to 5 million depending on the company to my top line. Resources, as in people, facility, trucks, book of business that I could resell and remarket to, but that costs money, right? And the more money I'm spending on growth, the less money that goes to the bottom line. So. Decisions.
Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, when you look at the 10-year vision, what did those decisions support? Right? I mean, yeah, short term, there's immediate ROI you've just mentioned, but what if half that entire labor force is gone? Those are the ones in the room that didn't want to see you roll up in the Bugatti.
Well, that's the
right?
risk. That's always the risk.
Completely.
Yeah, it's always the risk. Yeah, that was probably one of my biggest things getting to this point was, what if we just had a mutiny, right? Everyone was just like, head on a stake. We hate this. We're out of here. Because really what's going to come down to people. Like if everyone says, hey, I'm out, it's like, well, okay, I'll figure it out, but that sucks. I'm back to square zero. And it can happen. It definitely can
happens. I've seen it. Honestly, you and I know of 2 people personally that it happened within the last 5 years. And when it happened, it was obvious because it was everywhere. And it disrupted a lot of things. Of course, the business themselves, they just folded. And now those 2 are back into it again with a different name, trying a different approach. And it's like, I mean... It's not the end of the world. It doesn't completely deter your mission if you've got a strong enough desire. But at the end of the day, it's like there's something wrong with that leader.
Yeah, something happened to make that happen.
Completely.
That for sure. Yeah. I don't think anyone will have the full story either. Like I have an idea who you're talking about. I'm not sure. You have to hit me out off air. But
well, I mean, the matter is all of us listening, and you and I know that there's so many of these stories that, people try to partner with one another or they don't, and they do it on their own, and they get too cocky, or you mentioned arrogance. I mean, that's one right there. The true definition of arrogance. I mean, you can't morph that. What we're talking about is an elevated version of what arrogance somewhat can look like. I think within the right person, and the right mission statement and the correct morals and values, arrogance is not even the word. It's obviously, like we talked about, it's different. But I mean, there are people that don't get past their morals and their values, and their compass is completely off. and it
Yeah.
takes their staff 2 to 3 years to find that out. Um, you know, hell, it happened to me in corporate America. I watched it happen to the founders of the company I worked for, and I'm so glad to now not be a part of it because it's toxic. You know,
Yeah. I would agree. I
and
mean,
good for
actually,
them.
in a way, that happened at KHB when we had our partnership split.
Yeah.
You know, that was a huge inflection point. Huge inflection point to where many, many, many alternate realities could have spun out of that. Yeah, I guess just like the funniest part about risk is people who think they don't take any don't really recognize that they're still in the middle of it. You know, like there's risk associated even in not making the risky decision. You know, there's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. It really depends on so many other factors than just making that decision at face value. Like I know plenty of people who are great people, believers, good stewards with their money, but they're very, very, very risk adverse. And they're going to live a safe, comfortable life for the most part, I would say. But the fear of risk has led them into another risky way of living, of just complacency. You know, like if we're not, what are we striving for? Like what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, like what legacy are you leaving to your kids? What example are you setting to your kids? In my opinion, right? Like I want my kids when they grow up to be like my dad had his flaws, because I sure do, right? He had his shortcomings, but you know what? He was brave, courageous. He was assertive, and anything he put his mind to, he accomplished. You know, like those are the traits I want my kids to grow up learning about themselves too. You know,
Yeah.
like that I need to be, if I'm brave, courageous, and if I put my mind to something and follow through with it, I can be successful. Like that's a great foundation for anywhere they go in life, career path wise and personal relationship wise. But a lot of people don't do that, you know?
Well, and the difference between most successful people that have a compass, carry themselves the right way, and are genuinely, I think, have a faith of some sort. They're willing to, take the proper criticism from the people that are in their arena.
Yeah.
Most leaders that I feel like are, and this leads right into, narcissism, and it leads right into negotiating with someone that's like that. I mean, it's a huge challenge to face someone who's typically an overconfident leader that is a narcissist. Good luck. I've dealt with it. I'd say everybody has has a mixture of traits of narcissism in these types of roles because they have to make quick, concise decisions, and typically it runs a course of action that mirrored against what a narcissist looks like could somewhat look the same, but then check yourself, because the reality is most of the time if you dig deep into that person's integrity, you'll find that that's not the case, right? So
Well, there is a point in business where you are the most important person,
correct.
right? Like, and that's just the bottom line truth. Like you are the heartbeat of your organization. But then there also comes a time at scale where that's not necessarily the case. And I felt like I went through a narcissistic phase, and I would say 2022,
Yeah.
of where I had my Superman cape on, and I was flying around and selling $1 million jobs, and all this stuff. I'm so important. Only reason why the company runs is because of me. Those type of thoughts. Very narcissistic thoughts. And until you have to have some sort of mental break to separate yourself from that. But two, at that point, I was the most important person, because if I didn't come
You
to
were
work, no
superior.
one had
Yeah.
a job.
Correct.
That's just bottom line, right? Like if I didn't show up, no one gets fed.
Yep.
Now, at this point, there's a multitude of people, supporting the mission and vision and goals, to where if I go away for a week, or if I go do an acquisition, I'm in that company for 3 months. Not necessarily. I'm not the most important person at KHB right now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I'm not the most important person at my tile company by far.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to be.
That's
Like that's the whole point.
That's interesting you say that. I mean, I actually had the pleasure of watching 9 innings of baseball last week with a billionaire, and exited for a huge. Well, the last business exited for a huge buyout, and when we talked deeper, this is probably the second or third conversation that I've had about my business. Um, his recommendation was do the things, grow the business, but when you leave to go do the next thing or pivot to try and scale in another market or whatever, don't let the gas up on the first organization in the main office and the structure that's there. And it's not to say that the people can't carry on the legacy, but your presence is what created it. There's nothing to be there's no reason to mislead anyone into believing that that's not the truth. It's because of you that it got to where it's at, and it's your responsibility to maintain it, whether you're there or not. And leading people to fill in the role as leader or CEO or president and founder, it's still not going to be your vision. Even though you paint it the same way, it still doesn't have the exact same substance behind it. And that's what his lesson that he told me. He said, when I took my business from, what the time was about a 16 or $20 million organization to 50, he led up on that role in 2 or 3 of his locations and realized quickly like that's the reason it took him almost 16 years to exit. So I listened clear on that because I'm totally present here. I never really thought ever would I be just like I'm gonna split my time here, there. I want to be here until I'm not wanted, right? But I see that in his business, and it's simpler than mine. So yeah.
Well, Nate, I got a hard stop. I got to get out. I got a phone call at 12.
Let's get it.
It was good catching up with you.
For sure. We'll do it again.
We will, hopefully next week.
Cheers, buddy. Good to see you, man.
All right, brother. I'll see you.
Take care.